across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 10 o'clock. Get involved, get it off your chest and call me on 0344 499 1000 or WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Wednesday, January the 21st. Here's what's coming up. After Britain's armed forces chief warned that there was a £28 billion black hole in military spending, it emerges that since 2019, the Ministry of Defence has handed out an astonishing £200 million in staff bonuses. This staggeringly inappropriate largesse with taxpayers' money culminated over the past year of spending dangerously with a record £57 million pocketed by civil servants, most of whom work from home. While Britain remains woefully unprepared for the escalating threat of war, the MOD gravy train keeps on rolling, with several civil servants receiving bonuses of 6-figure sums over and above their generous salaries. What is the notoriously woke Ministry of Defence doing so brilliantly that its staff deserve such extraordinary generosity from their government paymasters? 0344 499 1000. Frankly, are we being taken for a ride? My dad was a civil servant all his life, and in those days, he always used to say, it's a nice, safe job, but the thing about the public sector is you don't get bonuses. Guess that's all changed. £57 million handed out to desk jockeys at the Ministry of Defence in bonuses over the past year. I think that's a scandal. In other news, and in an astonishing 1.25 hour speech at Davos, Donald Trump ripped European leaders to shreds as he vented his frustration over their refusal to hand him Greenland. Does the president know what he's doing? Or is he rambling his way into a kind of madness? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, back in the broken Britain Trump is so scathing about, the lunacy of Labour's welfare insanity goes from bad to worse as shock news statistics reveal that 1.5 million more have joined the growing throng of people on full benefits with no requirement ever to find a job, bringing the total tally of those allowed to live off the state for the rest of their days to an eye-watering 4.9 million. Nearly 5 million people receiving full benefits, full welfare, and they never have to work for the rest of their lives. How crazy is that? It's economically disastrous, I'll tell you that. 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, the deranged £2 million scheme to bribe illegal migrants to return to their home countries. They have no right to be in Britain. Why pay them? Why not just kick them out? 0344 499 1000. Oh, and by the way, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood's alleged crackdown is clearly having no effect whatsoever. A bumper 901 foreigners have crossed the channel unlawfully over the past week, and still they come. Will this gormless government ever stop the boats? Does it have even the remotest chance of ever stopping the boats? 0344 499 1000. Plus a deep dive into what the hell the World Economic Forum in the Swiss alpine town of Davos is all about, including the strange fate of Klaus Schwab, the guy who founded the WEF in 1971 but won't be among the great and the good this year after being accused of financial corruption and suddenly retiring. Stay tuned to find out what happened. And finally, as ITV ridiculously slaps a trigger warning on the late, great Bob Monkhouse's jokes, or risk causing profound offence by telling a few of them, and ask when will this woeful woke nonsense ever end? When is it going to end? Go woke, you go broke. Nobody likes it except for people who run TV channels, people who run big conglomerates, people who work in the NHS. Public hate it. Trigger warnings on Bob Monkhouse's jokes. Absolutely mad. 03444991000. Comedians are banned from being funny, it seems. Isn't that special? 03444991000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Wednesday night together. And let's go straight over to my first guest. Always a pleasure to have her on. She was on Monday, Tuesday and now Wednesday. Welcome back to Talk's international editor, Isabelle Oakeshott. Hi, Isabelle.
Good evening, Kev. Well, with my international hat on, I tried to endure the entire Trump speech, and I have to say that I was almost defeated. I don't know about you. It was quite a humdinger, wasn't it? And it did go on. Yeah,
it did go on. What was interesting is that I messaged you because I'll tell you what it was. I got into my car to make my way to the station. My wife gave me a lift to the station on my way to Talk, on my way to work. I switched it on, and Trump had just begun his speech. And it set off in spectacular style. I was saying to him, I said, this is amazing, this is astonishing. You know, he was ripping Europe to bits, it's to shreds, you know, dismantling our ludicrous net zero policies, our immigration policies, saying Europe is unrecognisable. I go, this is astonishing. Then I got on the train, you know, got out of the car, got to the station, got onto the train, made my way all the way into London, got out of the train, got to the office, and he's still talking. He's still going on. And what happened was, after I think a spectacular 10 minutes or so, he kind of fell off a cliff into this kind of rambling monologue that didn't make a whole lot of sense. So, you know, always unpredictable. It started encouragingly, but finished not so encouragingly. Perhaps I'll have a little chat about that in a little while. But this was a story I wanted to start off with, not one that anyone else has touched today. I'm going to call it an exclusive. At least it's an exclusive on this channel. I just saw this, I'll be honest with you. I saw it in the papers the other day, and I thought, oh my God, this should be given more oxygen, the oxygen of publicity. It is astonishing. So last week, Britain's Chief of Defence Staff, Air Chief Marshal Sir Richard Knighton, warned Keir Starmer, you know, that we needed to step up our military spending double quick. He said there was a £28 billion military funding black hole. So the MOD doesn't appear to have enough money to buy the weapons that this country urgently needs as the threat of war, world war almost, escalates by the day. So this is a very serious emergency. Then it emerges now that last year alone, civil service desk jockeys at the Ministry of Defence, I say at the Ministry of Defence, most of them work from home, were paid £57 million in bonuses. That's despite the threat of world war and despite the fact that the MOD is facing billions of pounds worth of cuts. Taxpayers' money continues to be showered on its staff. And it turns out that the £57 million bonuses add up to £25 million more than they were given last in 2019, and since 2019 these lucky people who toil at the MOD have received in total more than £200 million in bonuses. As I was saying in my monologue, my father God rest his soul, was a lifelong civil servant. And he always said to me, you know, son, if you want job safety, go into the civil service, go into the public sector. He said, but don't expect to get rich. He said, the thing about the civil service, you know, all my mates who work in the private sector, every year I see them getting all their Christmas bonuses. He said, you don't get bonuses in the civil service, but you get good pensions and you get good job security. Well, obviously that's gone by the wayside. I mean, what, in your estimation, Isabelle, do you think the Ministry of Defence is doing so brilliantly that its staff deserve £57 million worth of staff bonuses? Some of the top echelons, the people on huge salaries already, you're talking about £250,000 and more, they receive bonuses, there were several of them last year, worth more than £100,000. I think this is a disgusting, disgraceful use of taxpayers' money, don't you?
Well, I spent a long time studying the state of the British Armed Forces a few years ago, not that long ago, about 5 years ago. And I don't remember ever hearing about this type of bonus system. And I genuinely don't know what those bonuses would be for. I mean, you know, certainly there's very little active service at the moment. Of course, our armed forces go on kind of peacekeeping operations and training operations overseas, but there's not much fighting going on. Again, we're still part of the war on terror, the war on ISIS. That mainly involves the RAF. But, you know, it's not like we've got Afghanistan still or other theatres of war. So I don't know. I mean, I imagine possibly some of these bonuses may be to do with procurement projects, perhaps delivering things on time and on budget, although I'm not sure what examples are of those. It just seems quite strange.
I don't think the government should be giving bonuses to civil servants at all. Why do people in the private sector get bonuses? Because their company's done very well, it's made big profits, they've played an important part in that, and if you're responsible for a great year at your financial company or whatever, you get a slice of the action. That's well known. Sometimes you work in the city, your bonuses can be enormous. That's the private sector. You know, the government shouldn't be taking our tax money and handing millions, 57 million, 200 million since 2019, to civil servants over and above their salaries. How do they sort of deduce that people are worth these bonuses? Because, as I say, in the private sector, you get them because your company's had a good year and you've contributed to the company making profits. Well, you don't make profits in the civil service. You know, why are they doing this? I think this is wrong. I don't think civil servants should get bonuses. Who decides on their bonuses? They're being whoever does decide on this, presumably, you know, it's the Under-Secretary of States who run the big departments, defence, health, etc. You know, they're being very generous with our money, aren't they?
Yeah, and if it's happening in the Ministry of Defence, then it will undoubtedly be happening across all Whitehall departments.
Oh, yeah.
I can't see why the MOD would be giving bonuses. So next up, I think we need to find out what bonuses have been awarded in the Home Office. You know, have there been some bonuses for defying all expectations on performing appallingly on the number of migrant boats stopped? You know, maybe you get a kind of reverse performance thing because you've been so bad that we're actually going to give you the award for the most crashingly incompetent. I don't know, but I'd love to hear what bonuses are dished out in the worst failing departments.
Well, if they handed out bumper bonuses to people in the Home Office who were incompetent, that would probably bankrupt the country. I mean, you'd have to sort of find billions to pay that lot for their breathtaking incompetence. But yeah, it just strikes me this is very, very wrong. So folks, did you know this? Did you know that as Isabelle says, probably all civil service departments, but certainly the Ministry of Defence, a civil service department that you pay for with your money, your tax, your hard-earned tax money, that someone, or the MOD at least, is taking it and sharing massive amounts of it among the people who work at the MOD, not because of their salaries, but because of bonuses on top of their salaries. And as I said, you and I both queried, Isabelle, what do they do that warrants a bonus? What would you do at the MOD that warrants a bonus? I mean, it wouldn't be turn up for work, because of course very few of them do. They all work from home. This strikes me, folks, as wrong. Let me know what you think. 03444 99 1000. As I say, bear in mind the MOD is under great pressure to make billions of pounds worth of savings, big cuts, and yet it is handing out, well, last year, £57 million in bonuses to its staff. Since 2019, more than 200 million. What do you think about that? 03444 99 1000. We'll go to break now, Isabelle, and when we come back, we'll talk about the most extraordinary mess that our welfare system has become. It's got even worse. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That's Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Suits, that's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beard, and I feel
raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of its desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, we're going to take a thorough good look at Donald Trump's speech in Davos. He's made a few this week, and they're getting more jaw-dropping by the day. As I said to Isabelle just now, I thought his speech in Davos today started off well and then kind of rambled off into some very strange areas. But we'll talk more in depth about that later. But just so as we can set the scene for this next item we're going to talk about, he did overarchingly tell two-tier Keir, Macron, and all the other European nations to straighten out their countries. Let's have a little look.
Get a little bit rough when they're, when I'm not around, but when I'm around, they treat me very nicely. And, I like both of them. They're both liberal. They've got to straighten out their countries. You can't, London is having a lot of problems, and if you look at Paris, got a lot of problems. They have two problems: immigration and energy. They got to stop with the windmills, and they got to go back. Like UK has an unbelievable asset called the North Sea. Norway uses it, makes a fortune. They have a better section of it, and they don't do it.
Wrong, Donald. We got three problems here. Definitely immigration, definitely energy, net zero madness, absolutely. Migrant crisis spiraling out of control, absolutely. What he forgot, Isabelle, was our deranged welfare system, and that's what I want to talk about now. It has transpired today with new statistics, shock news statistics, have revealed that we are now handing out, or we have handed out in the past year, no need to ever work benefits to 1.5 million more people. These are people who are told you will get full benefits for the rest of your life. You don't have to look for a job. You never have to work. Some people obviously would deserve that, you know, some people. But 1.5 million more in the last year, I doubt that somehow. But 1.5 million more on the list of people with no need ever to work for the rest of their days has now brought that total to 4.9 million. Basically 5 million people in this country are now living off the state with no requirement to get a job for the rest of their days. If you add that to more statistics, altogether 8.3 million people are out of work and on universal credit. That's more than 10% of the country. And if you distill that down to the workforce, because of course, you know, 70 million population includes a lot of kids and a lot of old people who are too old to work. So probably we're talking 15% easily of the entire working population are out of work and on universal credit. So 8.3 million out of work, 4.9 million of them, 5 million of them, will never have to work again. So the country has generously told them, for the rest of your days, we will give you the money you need to exist. And that number has spiraled, rocketed over the last year by 1.5 million people. Now, this more than ever depicts a welfare state, depicts Britain as a welfare state with a country attached. This is unworkable. This is untenable. This is economically disastrous. You cannot have prosperity if 15%, maybe even more, of the workforce aren't working, and the majority of them have been told you never have to work again. This is lunacy, absolute lunacy.
It is completely insane, and it's not even desirable to write people off in that way. You know, they may think at the time, with whatever the condition is that they're suffering from at the time, that they never want to work again. But actually, so much richer would their lives be in every different way if they could be encouraged and helped to get better enough with whatever the affliction is, to actually be part of the workforce, to actually be a net benefit to society economically. I think this is not only a scandal, it is also a tragedy. We are just doing the easiest possible thing. You know, Whitehall pen pushers and the companies to whom this work is contracted out are doing the easiest possible thing, ticking a box, and actually the price tag attached to ticking the box that says you never need to work again, you never need to be assessed again, is astronomical. It's not only the cost of supporting that person for the rest of their lives, but the opportunity cost. It's what they're not producing as well. And I just think it's incredibly sad and incredibly unsustainable. And there are a small number of people who really do need and deserve that help. I mean, it'd be an awful thing if you've got terminal cancer, to have to endlessly prove you've got terminal cancer or other profound disabilities that have no chance of getting better. But if what you've got is, I don't know, for the sake of argument, back pain that no one's quite able to identify what's caused it, I don't think we should ever write anybody off in that fashion.
Well, no, exactly. And you know, clearly 8.3 million people, we are hurling benefits at people far too easily. And that's the Labour ethos, isn't it? That is Labour's system, whereby, you know, you... what's the word? You go easy, you're lenient on people. Many of these people, let's face it, they're swinging the lead, they're skivers, they're lazy.
Well, I'll tell you how you slightly know that many of these people are swinging the lead, because if you're in any town centre, let's say, you know, in the middle of a Monday morning or early on a Tuesday afternoon, you know, these town centres and shopping malls and stuff are full of people, young people, fit people, who are quite obviously not working. Now, of course, some of them will be shift workers, I get that, and some of them will be on annual leave, although frankly not that many in early January. But I've really noticed an explosion in the number of people who are quite patently got nothing much to do for most of the day, every day. And it would be quite interesting, wouldn't it, to do a little, you know, spot check, you know, in an average shopping mall somewhere on a Monday morning, and just ask how many of those people milling around, because they're certainly not all retirees. A lot of young people, you know, flitting around doing nothing. How many of them are actually on benefits?
Yeah, and what these people are doing, as I say, I'm not saying that every single benefit claimer is a scrounger and doesn't deserve it. Far from it. You know, we have a welfare benefits system. It's there for people who deserve it. You know, hard-working people who've just lost their jobs, people who've had accidents, people who are disabled, etc., etc. But let's face it, 8.9 million, and then 1.5 million. So according to the government, 1.5 million people in the past 12 months have become unable to work. That's ridiculous. Yeah. That's ridiculous. And, you know, these people, all welfare claimers, are not contributing to the economy. They are feeding off the economy, and therefore the economy becomes more sluggish. In fact, this is in terms of the economy of Britain, is a recipe for outright disaster. It is really worrying.
It really is worrying. And, you know, if Britain were really, truly, genuinely that sick, you know, you'd just be seeing endless people in, what was it they were called? What do we call those mobility scooters? We had a funny discussion about.
Oh no, you mustn't call them invalid carriages.
Invalid carriages. The streets would be chock full of invalid carriages. There'd be people hobbling around everywhere. Everybody would be looking sickly. It's just not the case, is it? You know, it just isn't. I mean, of course, the truly sick people are indoors. But I come back to my point that there are an awful lot of people milling around shopping centres during the day, during the working week, who are not students, they are not on school holidays, they're not pensioners, they are perfectly fit and healthy people of working age who are swinging the lead. And before anyone says it, I know not all disabilities are visible,
of course,
but a lot of them are.
And the last point to make about this is among this 8.9 million, and particularly the 4.9 million who've been told you don't have to work for the rest of your life. You know, some of them will be quite young people. There are many people who've been written off due to mental health problems, anxiety, depression, and again, of course, some of them will deserve it. Some mental health issues will prevent you from working. Some depression, some anxiety is crippling. You know, fair enough. But let's face it, just writing people off for the rest of their lives because they say they're a bit depressed or they've got anxiety is a thing, and it needs to be stopped. Because the number of people with nothing wrong with them apart from the fact they claim to have mental health issues are being told, don't worry, you don't have to work for the rest of your life, and here's government money for you. That is not healthy, and that is disastrous for the economy. By the way, you know, when we had that discussion last week about what the story was, that the government was going to spend quite a lot of money rewriting the legislation on mobility scooters because in this legislation, which was written back in the 70s, mobility scooters tended to be called invalid carriages. So they were going to spend a fortune, I think they're still going to do it actually, to rewrite the legislation so it doesn't contain this offensive term, invalid carriages. And you and I said, that's ridiculous, you know. Does anyone care that much? Mobility scooters, invalid carriages, what's the difference? This is absurd, wokery gone mad. So later in the show, a really nice old lady rang up and I felt really, she said, I very much object to calling them invalid carriages. I have got a mobility scooter and it gives me my independence. I don't see why I should be classified as a invalid. So I go, yeah, absolutely. I totally see your point. You know, so I felt a bit bad about that.
But the point is that no one uses that terminology anyway. I bet no one has ever said, oh, go and park your invalid carriage out there.
Well, they certainly don't now. They certainly don't now. They did used to use that term. But I just think it's just like sensitivity gone crazy. I don't want them to waste millions of pounds of my tax money just changing words on legislations because they've become offensive since they were first written. That's ridiculous. But when that nice old lady put me in my place, I sort of said, oh, yeah, I do agree with you. We must change the legislation.
You're a sellout.
Yeah, I know. I got the spine of a backbone of a jellyfish. But anyway, let's go to break and let's talk about the Chagos Islands when we come back, because there was a very entertaining exchange between Kemi Badenoch, the Tory leader, and our Supreme Leader, Kim Jung Starmer. So we'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabelle Oakeshott. Before we get to the Chagos Islands, Isabelle, just had a text from someone who quite understandably hasn't put their name on it. Very interesting, though, when we were talking about bonuses to the desk jockeys at the MOD, the civil servants. We probably should have said, well, what about the brave people in our armed forces who put their lives on the line, who are on the front line, the military personnel? So this person has written in and said, I'm serving in the armed forces and I can guarantee you that none of us got any sort of bonus. These bonuses will be for high-level civil servants, most likely for those who have advocated for diversity and inclusion the hardest. He's probably right. But yeah, while we're talking about these desk jockeys getting 57 million quid's worth of bonuses last year, our soldiers, our sailors and our pilots, our Air Force people do not get bonuses. So there's something wrong there, I would suggest. Let's move on to the Chagos Islands, and yesterday, you know that bloke Darren Jones, you know, the one who thinks that most of the migrants coming across the channel are women, babies and children. He's the chief secretary to the Prime Minister. He's a particularly absurd character, very funny guy. He doesn't, not in a good way. So he's on TV. So Donald Trump, as you know, yesterday tweeted that giving away the Chagos Islands was an act of great stupidity and displayed Britain's tremendous weakness. This was ridiculous, he said. That's what he tweeted yesterday morning. An hour later, Darren Jones is on the TV saying, Donald Trump absolutely, completely supports us giving away the Chagos Islands. I said, no, he doesn't. You know, they talk about gaslighting us. Anyway, Keir Starmer had to deal with this at Prime Minister's questions in Parliament today because Kemi Badenoch, the Tory leader, challenged him on the madness of giving away the Chagos Islands, the strategic Chagos Islands in the middle of the Indian Ocean, a big airstrip on one of the islands called Diego Garcia, which always sounds to me like a sort of Barcelona footballer. But Diego Garcia has got an airstrip, military airstrip, used by us, but used greatly by America, and that is to patrol the Middle East and the Far East. It's very strategic. And Keir Starmer and that cretin, the Attorney General Richard Hermer, and Jonathan Powell, that guy who's been working for Labour since I think it's 1837, never seems to go away. It's like a bad disease, you can't get rid of him. They have all handed the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, China's best friend, because they say it's a matter of international law. They don't like imperialism. They think it's a colonial, sort of colonial backstep, and therefore we have to get rid of this imperialistic, these remnants of our empire. We have to get rid of it. Ridiculous. Putting national security of Britain at risk and the security of the entire West at risk. So Trump, finally, I think he's been very slow on this, very sluggish. He sort of finally woke up to this week and sort of went a bit mad about it, and quite rightly. It doesn't seem like he's managed to stop the deal going through, because when Starmer got wind of the fact that Trump was on the warpath over the Chagos, all of a sudden calling it an act of great stupidity, Starmer last night rushed the Chagos deal through Parliament. Ridiculous. But anyway, today, around about lunchtime, Kemi challenged him on it and said, look, you're going round saying, David Lammy, the Deputy Prime Minister, said, don't worry about Chagos, there'll be no question of any deal to give away those islands without the approval of the United States of America, the President, Donald Trump. No question. Well, he has to approve. Yesterday, he made it crystal clear that far from approve, he thinks it's an act of great stupidity. So Kemi challenged Keir on this, and this is his squirming reply. Have a look at this.
President Trump deployed words on Chagos yesterday that were different to his previous words of welcome and support when I met him in the White House. He deployed those words yesterday for the express purpose of putting pressure on me and Britain in relation to my values and principles on the future of Greenland. Mr. Speaker, he wants me to yield on my position, and I'm not going to do so.
Let's talk about those. Well, first of all, that's just weasel words. The President made it very clear yesterday he does not approve of this deal. He thinks it's incredibly stupid, which, by the way, it is. It's an act of utter madness, and as President Trump said, an act of weakness too. But he's talking about my values and my principles. Let's talk about that. And what is it? You cannot have Greenland. You cannot have Greenland. This is a question of sovereignty. That is an issue for the Greenlanders themselves. It is for them to decide on their sovereignty. You can't have it. Sovereignty and the people, that is democracy. And what about about the sovereignty of the Chagos Islanders, the Chagosians as they are known? Oh, I don't care about that. Give it to Mauritius. In other words, he thinks that the sovereignty in Greenland is precious, central to his values and principles. Sovereignty in the Chagos Islands, he couldn't give a damn about. He's giving them to China's best friend, Mauritius. The guy has got no consistency, no ability to advance a cogent argument, has he?
I mean, that was just it's such a weak answer. It was almost comical, wasn't it?
The words he deployed. The words he deployed.
What is he talking about? Why can't he just talk like a normal person?
Because he's not a normal person.
I don't want a prime minister that speaks like such a complete and utter moron. I mean, this guy.
He does, doesn't he?
I just despair. I absolutely despair. Look, I mean, giving away the Chagos is an act of such astonishing, unnecessary self-harm that it is hard to find the words to describe its treachery and the sheer pointlessness of doing this. And the truth is, you're right, that Trump has been very slow to this. It's almost as if he's hearing it for the first time.
I think he sort of is. I don't think he gave it the time of day. I don't think he concentrated on it. I don't think he's probably going, Chagos, where's that? He didn't. And suddenly, okay.
He didn't engage with it. That's the truth. He didn't, because I know that great efforts were made with people close to him to lobby them. And for whatever reason, they didn't succeed in getting it into his mind at a time when it could have really made a difference. Cast back to when this was all being sort of carved up. And it was more than a year ago, probably. And I remember thinking, Trump's going to come to the rescue. Surely Trump is going to veto this thing. And then he just didn't. And it was so disappointing. And now at the 11th hour, he sort of suddenly realised what's going on here. But he's only sort of partially realised, because he initially seemed to be labouring under the misapprehension that we were actually getting some money for giving away the Chagos.
Quite the reverse. £30 billion. We gave Mauritius £30 billion to give them the islands. I mean, I don't really can't work that out. And our the money we've given them is so generous that all Mauritians now, because of our 30 billion, don't have to pay income tax anymore. It's just ridiculous. And in another of his Truth Social posts, his social media site, Trump, when he suddenly bursts into capital letters and he said, this great weakness, stupid act by Britain, they're giving away the Chagos Islands for no reason, and then in capital whatsoever. He's right. He's right. These islands are being given away because of the dinner party circuit in North London, and they despise the remnants of the British Empire. They despise colonialism, and they see the Chagos Islands as a symbol of Britain's imperialist past, and that's why they're giving them away. And they drone on about it's been ruled in international courts that Mauritius should have sovereignty over these islands, and therefore we must give them back. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. And by the way, Mauritius has never had sovereignty over the Chagos Islands, and the Chagos Islands are 1,300 miles away from Mauritius. That's the distance from London to Marrakesh. Do you see what I mean? Handing Chagos, or Diego Garcia, that airstrip, to Mauritius makes no sense at all, apart from the dissipation of the remnants of the British Empire. How pathetic is that? These guys, these pathetic little men, these human rights idiots, Starmer, Hermer, Jonathan Powell, what on earth do they think they're doing? They are just ideologues running around the globe acting like sixth form activists. It's pathetic, it's frightening. They have compromised the safety of the West with this.
And they've diminished our country.
Yes.
I mean, that's what they're doing, diminishing our country. It's embarrassing to be labelled weak on a world stage, but that is what we look, and that is what, our leaders have been. And, we should be doing the opposite. Instead of giving away sovereign territory where we can have amazing sovereign bases for strategic defence purposes, we should actually be adding sovereign bases. I mean, there are countries in the world that would actually welcome new British defence presence in their own territory. We ought to be emulating the Chinese and trying to get a foothold in different parts of the world, because that is how the world works now. It's a very small place. And frankly, if you're just sitting there worrying about international treaties at all steps...
International law.
Going to be left behind, though, aren't we?
You're right. That's a much better way of putting it than I did, Isabel. You're right. What they've done, these pathetic little men, these North London dinner circuit socialists, they've diminished this nation. But there's something worse than that. They've threatened, they've compromised the security of this nation.
Yep.
They've compromised the security of the United States of America. They've compromised the security of the West on the altar of their own ludicrous, outmoded ideology. It's pathetic. It is so pathetic. By the way, breaking news, Donald Trump will not now be imposing tariffs, the ones that he threatened on us and the rest of the Europe over Greenland. So he's, I'll just quickly read out his statement. It's fairly long, but bear with me. Based upon a very productive meeting that I have had with the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, we have formed the framework of a future deal with respect to Greenland and, in fact, the entire Arctic region. This solution, if consummated, will be a great one for the United States of America and all NATO nations. Based on this understanding, I will not be imposing the tariffs that were scheduled to go in effect on February the 1st. Additional discussions are being held concerning the Golden Dome. That's his weapon dome thing that he wants to build in Greenland as it pertains to Greenland. Further information will be made available as discussions progress. Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and various others as needed will be responsible for the negotiations. They will report directly to me. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So very quickly, Isabel, he's not going to get Greenland, and he's realised it.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically caved.
Yes, exactly.
He's caved, and he's going to be putting a little bit more defence sort of systems in Greenland than they had before. That's it. I mean, I don't think that Greenland, Denmark, or really anyone else would have massively objected if that's where he'd even started the argument. It's not like he's played to get 1,000 and everybody is settled very angrily at 100. If he just asked for 100 in the first place, he'd have got it.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I thought there was a solution to this that could have been that the European leaders, including Starmer, just said to Trump, listen, get this through your head. No ifs, no buts. You're not getting Greenland. You're not buying Greenland. But of course, you're the most powerful nation on the face of the earth. If you want Greenland, why don't you invade? See how that looks. In other words, what's happened here is old Big Mouth. I mean, I like Trump, and I think I wish we had as dynamic a leader as he is. But he's eccentric, as we've been discussing. But what's happened here is he's realised that he's overdone it. And so so we've ended up with a sort of fairly standard issue negotiation. Yeah, you can have a few bases, NATO will have a few bases, we'll put a few weapons on there, everybody's happy. So it's not much at all, it doesn't amount to a hill of ice beans as they have in Greenland. So that's that, folks. No tariffs. America's not going to demand Greenland anymore. Thank you very much, Donald, for that entertaining interlude. We'll move on to the next one now. Let's go to break. When we come back, we need to talk about the migrant crisis and the madness of the way we in Britain are trying to deport illegal migrants by offering them massive amounts of money. They're illegal. They got no right to be here. Just kick them out. You don't have to give them thousands of pounds. Absolute insanity. That next.
welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That's Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Seats, and that's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beers, and I feel
Raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabelle Oakeshott. The migrant crisis, let's go back to that. We discussed this yesterday, but just in case you missed it, folks, Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary's tough crackdown on the crisis is really paying dividends. 901 migrants have crossed the Channel illegally in a week since last Wednesday, so still they come. Deterrents, there are none. Therefore, they keep on coming. So that's ridiculous for a start. As this continues to unfold in all its horror, this ongoing invasion, these armadas of illegal foreigners coming across in small boats, with the government doing nothing to stop them, this gormless government launches a desperate £2 million scheme to bribe illegals into returning to their own countries. This specifically concerns Algerian and Sri Lankan migrants who have no right to be in Britain. They're here illegally. To persuade them to leave, to bribe them into leaving, we will be giving these people free flights home, 5 nights paid accommodation when they get there, transport to their chosen destination. They will also get UK taxpayer-funded food provision packs, reunification assistance to help them trace their family and friends. Also, they'll be aided in finding a job back in their home country or setting up their own business, as well as access to workshops and special skills programs. These people are illegal. They got no right to be here. My point would be, you're here unlawfully, get out, we're deporting you. This goes hand in hand with the voluntary return scheme, in which we pay migrants with no right to remain up to £3,000 on preloaded bank cards to return them to their countries, as well as free flights. And this is my favourite: those who break the law and go to jail can receive a resettlement grant, that's what they call them, of up to £1,500 while still behind bars. My point would be, how about this? When they finish their sentences, we just deport them. Why are we giving them all this money? These people, they're essentially criminals. They're here unlawfully, illegally, and we just give them thousands and thousands of pounds, free flights, and now we're paying for accommodation and setting up businesses in Sri Lanka and Algeria. Just deport them. What has their life back in their home countries got to do with us? This is mad.
Completely bonkers. And worse than that, just outrageous, actually, on hard-working British people who, many people at this point are struggling to fill out their tax return, their self-assessment. Small business. Yeah, how many of us are looking at that and looking at what, if we're lucky enough to have an accountant or we're doing it ourselves, calculating the horrible amounts that we owe. And even if it's only a small amount, it's a lot when you have to pay it, isn't it? Mm. And it particularly absolutely sticks in the throat, doesn't it? When you think how hard you graft for that money, and then it's just being cashed out to these illegal immigrants who ought to be put behind bars when they break into our country and deported. I don't care what happens to them in their countries of origin.
No, I agree.
If they're being deported, it shows that they're not going back to a horrific regime, because we don't send anyone back to horrific regimes. Frankly, I'd still be sending people back to most of the regimes that we rule out returning people to, because we're not an international charity. we are trying to be a country.
Or rather, we're not supposed to be, but we seem to be.
We've become a charity, but we are supposed to be a country. Yeah. And I do not know who comes up with this stuff. Certainly no voter asked for it. And I would hazard a guess that 95% of voters would not approve of that, and the rest of the other 5% are in Oxford or Brighton.
We pay for their flights. We give them thousands of pounds, and now this new scheme, we even go into their home countries, help them set up businesses, find work, give them accommodation. It's just crazy. And Out Mehmet, the excellent chief executive boss of the Migration Watch organisation, he said that there's another problem with this new they call it a reintegration service scheme. He said the other problem with that is people will go back, these migrants will go back, they'll tell their mates will make their way to Britain specifically to get on this scheme so they can go back to their countries and be given all this money to set up businesses. He said this will not reduce the number of migrants illegally in this country. It will add to it. They don't even think this stuff through.
No, I mean, if I was a bit bored in Sri Lanka, it's a really nice place, by the way.
It is. Food's great.
Millions of people go on holiday to Sri Lanka. I don't think there's any need for anybody to be seeking asylum from Sri Lanka. If I was a bit bored there and I was unemployed and didn't have much money, I too would think it might be a jolly jape to come to Britain as an illegal immigrant. Pretty load of upsides to that, aren't there?
There seriously are, honestly, Isabel. I mean, this last hour, think about it. We've been talking about our government, our gormless government. How many times have we said mad, crazy, insane, deranged, ludicrous? Yeah. That everything they do doesn't make any sense. These people are not fit to govern. I mean, half of the cabinet, I mean, particularly Ed Miliband, I mean, he should be in a padded cell, shouldn't he? This is just really getting frightening beyond belief. Isabel, another great week with you. Thank you so much for a fantastic hour and a great week. Isabelle Oakeshott, our remarkable, brilliant talk international editor there. Now, when I come back, we're going to go over to the States. We're going to talk about Donald Trump. We were just going to talk about what he was on about in Davos and, has he lost the plot or does he know what he's doing? I think it's a combination of the two, to be honest with you. I'm a big admirer, but sometimes in the last couple of weeks, he's got a bit strange. So we were going to talk about that, but there's been a dramatic development. He now says, he's close to doing a deal on Greenland, doesn't look like he will invade or anything like that, and he's not going to impose tariffs on Britain and Europe. So we're going to talk about that next. Stick around.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the second hour of tonight's Political Asylum. We're going to talk about Donald Trump in a little while. Dramatic developments. He seems to be sort of backing off a bit in terms of Greenland, now saying he's confident that a diplomatic solution can be found, and most importantly, he has pledged he will no longer impose tariffs on Britain and the other European countries who have resisted his attempts to take over Greenland. So that's an interesting development. We'll have a look at some of his speech today, which went on for an hour and a quarter. In a little while also we're going to talk about Reform UK taking legal action against the government, against the government's plan to cancel democracy, as they say, to cancel local elections. And we're going to have a deep dive into what the hell the World Economic Forum at Davos actually is. What is it all about? It's very controversial. A lot of people think, you know, decisions are made above and beyond world leaders. This is where the world really is dictated to by, you know, mysterious, sinister men in darkened rooms, all that kind of stuff. Actually, it's just a bit of a jolly in the Alps, but a lot of important people go, including Donald Trump, including Nigel Farage, and most importantly of all, David Beckham this year. There you go. He didn't take Brooklyn, his eldest son, with him. I don't know why. Anyway, but first, let's talk about Donald Trump because of these, well, his speech generally, but also this incredible development literally in the last 10 minutes. So a warm welcome to the show to former American diplomat, foreign policy advisor for the Republican leadership in the US Senate, Jim Jatras. Hello, Jim.
Howdy, Kevin. Good to be with you.
Thanks for joining us. As I just said, I just wanted to run through with you beforehand about this speech and all the speeches he's been making. Let me tell you, some of us in Britain, we love what he says about our broken country and the idiots who are ruining it with their absurd net zero policies, their mad immigration nonsense and so on and so forth. So we're right behind your president on that one. Even us Trump supporters were a little perturbed about his approach to Greenland. But I don't know if you've picked up on it, Jim, but this has just come out literally in the last 10 minutes. The president has announced, based on a very productive meeting that I have had with the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, we have formed a framework of a future deal with respect to Greenland and the entire Arctic region. And he said the solution, if consummated, will be a great one for the United States of America and all NATO nations. Based on this understanding, I will not be imposing the tariffs that were scheduled to go into effect on February the 1st. So quite a dramatic development. So after all the huff and puff, President Trump is clearly ready to reach a diplomatic solution here, a negotiated solution, and he's not going to impose the tariffs on Britain that were causing great consternation. Did you expect this, or are you surprised by this? What are your thoughts?
Well, Kevin, to tell the truth, I wouldn't be taking this to the bank just yet. I mean, Trump has announced several times that he had a great talk with Putin. He had a great talk with Zelensky. We're this close to a deal. We're 90% there. Well, we ain't there yet. And I think Mr. Trump has made it very clear he wants Greenland. Now, if Mr. Rasmussen, who calls him Daddy, even though Daddy turns out to be a molester now, if he calls him Daddy, it says that we're going to make a deal here, and he thinks that the Europeans will back down because, after all, as you've been discussing earlier with Isabelle, your leaders are all worthless and weak, and he has no respect for them, and I think he thinks he can intimidate them. So, yeah, maybe tariffs or military action are off the table right now, but who knows what tomorrow will bring.
And what about his speech generally? You know, I'll say one thing to you, Jim. you know, months ago, when we first heard word that our idiot Prime Minister and his socialist chums were planning to give away the Chagos Islands, the very strategic Chagos Islands, to China's best friend Mauritius, which had never had sovereignty over them ever anyway, and they're 1,300 miles away. When we first heard about this, because, of course, the Diego Garcia airstrip there is very important to America. It's where they keep an eye on the Middle East and the Far East. It's a really strategic point in the middle of the Indian Ocean, important to America, important to us, important to the security of the West. When we first heard that our idiot Prime Minister wanted to give them away for kind of colonial reasons, he thinks they're a throwback to British imperialism, who cares, but he does. We hoped and prayed that your fine president would step in and say, I'm not having this. He didn't say anything, he just sort of shrugged his shoulders and said, go ahead. All of a sudden, in the last couple of days, he seems to have woken up to it. It may be to do with Greenland. He's now calling our Chagos giveaway, quite rightly in my view, an act of great stupidity and a display of British weakness. What we are doing with those islands is absolutely insane and dangerous. We are going to have to give them £30 billion over the next 20 years for the privilege of handing these islands to a country that has never owned them. And so much is that, so great is our largesse that Mauritians, with this $30 billion, have been told they no longer have to pay income tax. That's a side issue. But we wish that President Trump, now he's calling it quite rightly an act of great stupidity, we wish he'd have said it a few months ago, because our Prime Minister's now pushed the deal through. This is worrying.
Well, of course, I think it's no state secret that Mr. Trump has just total contempt for Mr. Starmer, and he despises
Don't we
him.
all, Jim? Don't we all?
Well, it's no surprise he despises him, because he's in fact despicable. But that's the fact. But here's the trouble: is as you were pointing out with regard to migration, you have a government that really doesn't give a damn about your national security or your national interests. The solution to that, it seems, that a lot of people in Europe have, is they can hope that somehow Donald Trump will care more about your national security than your own governments do. And this is the situation you find yourself in, where you've totally outsourced your security and your sovereignty to somebody else who doesn't necessarily have your best interests at heart. Maybe he doesn't even have America's best interests at heart. But the fact is, until you actually assert your sovereignty and your independence, not only with regard to some islands in the Indian Ocean, but even with regard to the United States, you're not going to find your way out of this predicament.
Well, our Prime Minister today, you know, we have Prime Minister's questions in the House of Commons every Wednesday, was challenged by the leader of the opposition, the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch, over his Chagos madness. And the Labour government all along has made it very clear that without President Trump's approval, this Chagos deal would not go through. So Kemi Badenoch quite reasonably said, well, have you seen his tweet from yesterday morning? He said it's an act of great stupidity and a display of British weakness, and it's a crazy deal that shouldn't go through. And what Keir Starmer said, well, he doesn't really mean that, because in the past he said to me he does approve of it. I mean, that's our Prime Minister for you. And the point is, he then goes on to say, you know, the President has you know, questioned my belief in the sovereignty of the Greenland people. The decision on the future of Greenland must rest with the Greenlanders. It is their sovereignty, not America's, and so on and so forth. So he's very concerned about sovereignty and the right of Greenlanders to decide on the future of their, what he calls their own land, Greenland, right? Okay, fair enough. Now, there's another group of people who live in the, or used to live in the middle of the Indian Ocean. They're called Chagosians. They're the Chagos Islanders. He doesn't seem, our Prime Minister doesn't seem to give a damn about their sovereignty and their right to live in their own land. He's handing their land to Mauritius. There's only 200 of them left on the islands. The rest of them live in Britain. But you know what I mean? Our Prime Minister sends mixed messages, to say the least.
To say the least. Well, if he doesn't care about your sovereignty, why should he care about the Chagosians? You know,
point.
I mean, he could talk about the Greenlanders. I mean, talk is cheap. I suppose that makes him feel good with his little friends from Scandinavia, whichever the other countries pretend to be concerned about this. But I have to ask, do you really want to make your national sovereignty and your national interest dependent on what Mr. Trump's thumbs think from one day to the next? And that's sort of the position you found yourself in. Again, I don't know whether he really cares about these islands or not, and he could shrug his shoulders and change his mind from one day to the next, and there's nothing you can do about it. You know, from the days of Bush's poodle Tony Blair, you've been reduced essentially to a province of the Washington leadership.
Exactly right. And where do you think now then, Jim, the special relationship lies? I mean, it seems to be very damaged, and frankly, I'm sure you are aware of this. There are a lot of us in this country, we're on Team Trump. We're not on Team Starmer. You make a good point. I think Donald Trump cares more about British sovereignty than the British Prime Minister.
Well, here's the thing. I think a lot of observers think this is somehow Trump's secret plan to dispose of NATO or to walk away from Europe and so forth. I don't think that's the case. I think what he would like to see is more leaders like Orban in Hungary or Fico in Slovakia, who actually are patriots of a sort and actually care about those countries, but nonetheless, in international affairs, will take their cues solely from Washington. In other words, I think he wants you to retain your vassal position, but he would like better vassals than the ones he's got now.
Exactly right. Well, you bear with me, Jim, and you can watch them as well yourself. I want to play a couple of clips of Donald over the last couple of days in Davos at the moment. This is Donald Trump charging Europe with heading in the wrong direction. Have a look at this.
And I love Europe, and I want to see Europe go good, but it's not heading in the right direction. In recent decades, it became conventional wisdom in Washington and European capitals that the only way to grow a modern Western economy was through ever-increasing government spending, unchecked mass migration, and endless foreign imports.
He's got a good point. I mean, he actually said that both Macron and Britain, Starmer, have got to sort their countries out, and I think that counts for most of the European Union nations as well. And what he attacked was our crazy immigration policy. He said much of Europe is unrecognisable to what it used to be. Our immigration policies are mad, and he talked about the absolute lunacy, the insanity of our net zero policies, where in the North Sea, close to this country, we have the biggest reserves of energy almost in the world, and we're refusing to drill anymore. We've shut them all down for reasons of greenery, for windmills, for solar panels that we buy off China that makes them using fossil fuels. So he is pinpointing the increasing, I would call it, woke madness of what goes on in this country. As an American watching this from over there, what do you make of us? What do you make of what's going on over here?
Well, it's sad. I mean, the large majority of Americans have, their roots, their forebears from Europe, and most of them from the United Kingdom. And, this is something that any American, if he knows our history, should care about an awful lot, that we really are essentially one culture, one civilization. And it's just sad to see what's going on. And when he's right about these things, he's right. But I guess what's really particularly sad is looking at the electoral situation in almost all these countries. Can it change? I mean, after all, the conservative so-called migration policy was no better than Labor's. And so if Labor falls, and they come in too, what difference is going to make? I mean, you see this in democratic country after democratic country, where the people all feel some way about an issue, whether it's war or trade or migration, and it doesn't matter which of the Tweedledee, Tweedledum parties get into power, you get the same old policies. So can that change in Britain in the next election? I don't know. I hope it can, but you can tell me better than I can, whether that's a possibility.
I think we are heading in that direction. The nation, or the people of this country, have had enough. So, as you probably know, we're swinging right, and we're heading in a Reform UK direction, which Nigel Farage, friend of Donald Trump, a lot of his policies are very similar to Donald Trump's, and I think we need that. Last question, Jim. Now, Donald Trump may or may not still buy Greenland. Who knows? You're quite right. Now I come to think of it, I'm sure that this statement, probably very significant, but knowing Donald, it's probably just one step in a chain of events that will lead to an outcome that he is keen on. But do you think, I don't know if you're still in touch with him at all, but do you think you could persuade him, if he's having trouble buying Greenland, could he give that one up and buy Britain? He could run our country. What do you think? Do you think he might be inclined to do that? I'll tell you what, he can have it for $20. It's not worth much more.
Well, let's float that out there and see what happens. I think it's a great thought. Unlike, say, Iran, if we want to take Greenland by force, there won't be any fighting. There won't be any war. Nobody's going to oppose us if we occupy the island and plant the flag. I mean, that's the simple fact. All this stuff that's going to break NATO, there's going to be a war between NATO members. I don't think any of that's going to happen. That when all's said and done, we're not going to have to kidnap the King of Denmark or the Prime Minister. That they'll just do what they're told and accept what they must. And frankly, I think it's entirely doable, and he will do it if there's no other way to do it.
Well said, Jim. By the way, if Donald has any plans to kidnap Keir Starmer, tell him to go right ahead.
No, we don't want him.
Dump him in Greenland. How about that? So he can freeze.
Now we're talking.
Jim, great to have you on board. Thank you so much for your time. That was Jim Jatras, former US diplomat, foreign policy advisor for the Republican leadership in the US Senate. When we come back, we're going to talk about the so-called assault on democracy, cancelling democracy by the Labour Party, which has offered dozens of councils around the country the chance to cancel their elections in May, because soon after that there will be border realignments, border changes, reorganisations. So what the Labour government's saying is, look, there's not much point in having elections in these constituencies, in these boroughs, because they're going to change very soon. So you'd elect a load of councillors, mayor and all that, and then within a few weeks, maybe a month or so, you'd have to have elections again because you changed the boundaries. That's what they say. Others say that that's not the case, that what they're doing is they're running scared, Labour, because they know they're going to get absolutely annihilated around the country, and they don't want to endure that embarrassment. So they're cancelling democracy to save face. To save losing lots of boroughs. So that's the charge. Anyway, Reform UK have now been given the go-ahead to launch an official legal challenge to that. So Starmer is going to get taken to court to challenge whether or not he has the right to invite councils to cancel democracy. And by the way, here's to Labour Speaker Sir Lindsay Hoyle. I've had my ups and downs with old Linz, but on this one, good for him. He said he does not believe in cancelling elections. That's his staunch Labour old Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker. He does not believe in it. So disquiet in the Labour ranks over this, but we'll talk to a Reform guy after the break about this potential legal blocking of what Starmer wants to do in terms of local elections. So stay tuned for that.
welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Seats, and that's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beard, and I feel
Raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about these May elections, at which Labour is confidently expected to take a real hammering, a shellacking, as Barack Obama once put it. As such, people say that Keir Starmer is running scared, and therefore has offered dozens of councils, local councils, the opportunity to cancel their elections because they will come just ahead of planned reorganisation, boundary changes. So he said it will create zombie councils just for a few months or a few weeks, and then there'll have to be another election. That's the official reason, but many believe he's just running scared because he doesn't want to be thrashed all over the country in a kind of indication of what the nation is thinking of him. Now, we think at least 9 councils are going to take him up on that, and of course they're Labour councillors, because the Labour councils are the ones who are going to lose, because they're Labour, because everybody hates Labour now. But here we go, cancelled elections, a now official legal challenge to that, so it's going to go to court. Interesting situation. Let's talk to Reform UK London Assembly member Alex Wilson. Alex, welcome to the show. Your thoughts on this? It's good that Reform UK have got the go-ahead to launch this legal action. What will be the basis of it?
Good evening, Kevin. It's great to be with you this evening. Look, this shouldn't be necessary. We shouldn't be having to go to the courts to maintain and protect and defend the right to vote in local elections. It's an absolute disgrace that we've had to do this. Grateful that the court has said there is a case to answer, and that will be looked at properly in the middle of February, and we'll see what happens from there. Look, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what the chances of success are. I think our lawyers, the party lawyers, have said there is a very high chance of success. But it's absolutely right that we take this challenge on, because we're looking at nearly 4 million people being denied the right to vote. Many of these were denied the right to vote last year in the local elections. 63 councils were invited by the government. 63,
that's right. That's a lot of councils, by the way, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a huge amount of councils. I think somewhere in the region of 28 have indicated they want to cancel them, and of those, I think 22 are Labour councils.
Of course they are. Of course they are.
Councils.
Is it as many as that? I thought it was fewer than that. No, but it's 22 Labour councils want to cancel. Yeah, and we know so what these Labour councils are being offered by the government. I've got to stress, the government says we're not cancelling democracy. It's common sense bureaucracy, because we're going to change council boundaries, borough boundaries, and this will create. If we had elections now, we'd have to have more elections in a few weeks' time when the boundaries change. So that's their official position. But what these Labour councils are in effect being offered is this, or the question they're being asked is, would you like to have your elections in May and therefore lose power, or would you like to not have them and retain power? Which option do you think most of them are going to go for? It's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's so nakedly political, it's ridiculous. There was a poll that came out, I think, over the weekend, that was conducted in these areas that are likely to have the elections cancelled, and it showed reform in a very, very clear lead. Labour set to lose about half of the seats they were supposed to be defending. So it's clear why they're doing it. And the argument that it's tied up with local government reorganisation, that's a smokescreen. In the past, when elections have been delayed because councils are being reorganised, they've only done that when the arrangements have actually been firmly agreed, set in stone. We know what the future configuration is going to be. That simply isn't the case at the moment. In most of these places, there's no consensus locally about what the new arrangement should look like. So the chances are we'll be in exactly the same position this time next year, with those same councillors saying, oh, we have to defer it again. It's absolutely disgraceful. So it's right that we as a party are taking this on as a legal challenge, but it really shouldn't be necessary. But it's not just us that's saying this. We've seen the Speaker of the House of Commons.
Yeah, I saw that. That was quite significant because, behind his Speaker's cloak, Sir Lindsay Hoyle is a dyed-in-the-wool Labour veteran, very much a Labour man. He has come right out and said that I do not believe in cancelling elections. I've had my ups and downs with old Sir Lindsay, but on this, good for him.
Yeah, well, fundamentally, he's a Democrat, and that's to be welcomed. But also, the Electoral Commission, the body that is set up to oversee the management and fair process in elections up and down this country, they've said there's no excuse for cancelling these elections. It's an absolute disgrace. But fortunately, at least here in London, we know that the elections here for the 32 boroughs in London will definitely go ahead, no ifs, no buts. And we as a party are taking that on as a real opportunity to make this a referendum on Sadiq Khan, give us the platform for that mayoral election in 2.5 years' time when Layla Cunningham will take on Sadiq Khan, batter his record, and we can get real change here in London as well.
Set the story out, the actual legal action will be, by reform, will be against the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. The case, if a date for a full hearing could be set relatively quickly, they would not seek to temporarily block the plan. So that's why you've got an early date to hear it. I mean, what in your view, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, you're not a lawyer, but what precisely will be the basis of this lawsuit? Will it be that cancelling scheduled elections is unlawful?
The government should not have the power to do that, short of extreme circumstances like war or pandemic. Then the idea that the government should have the power to cancel elections at a whim, to protect and extend the terms of sitting councillors, most of whom happen to be of the same party as the government, it's an absolute disgrace. So I imagine that will form the cut and thrust of what we'll be talking about. But as I say, I'm not a lawyer, you're not a lawyer, but we've got people on board who very much are, and they think there's a very strong chance of success. And even if not, it's absolutely right for us to be highlighting this issue because we've already won the political argument. It's an absolute disgrace that these elections should be cancelled. You and I both know that people should have the right to vote. Local elections are really important because it's about electing people to run your local services in your community, and these people need a mandate to do that. If these elections are cancelled, there will be a large number of councillors who, by the time their term reaches its end, will have served 7 years rather than the 4 years they've been elected to. That's almost 2 whole terms on the back of one election. There's no mandate for that whatsoever. It's got to stop.
And just one last question, Alex. You talked about there'll still be quite a few local elections of areas of London, like the one that you're in. Around the country, do you know the tally of boroughs that are not affected by these potential cancellations?
Well, we have quite a complex sort of patchwork of local government in Britain, and I guess that's part of the reason why the government has launched reorganisation in the first place. But the elections that will be happening, so all of London, most of the metropolitan boroughs, and a smattering of areas which currently have sort of 2-tier county and district areas, but large parts of the country won't be up for election. But there should be, if everything goes ahead, there should be at least one council up for election in every region of the country. We'll see if that happens on May the 7th.
Yeah, you see, this is the point. Even if they succeed, or even if, what did you say, was it 29 councils accepted this invitation to postpone their elections. My point is even if those elections end up being cancelled or being postponed, I suspect there'll still be enough local elections unfolding to still send the message about Labour. So this big effort, if it is that, to cancel democracy to spare Labour's blushes, I don't think it's going to work anyway, even if these 29 elections don't happen. So these are interesting times, and we will watch that court case when it starts on, did I say February the 19th? Where is it? Let me get that right. Yeah, February the 19th. We'll watch those proceedings like a hawk. Alex, good to talk to you. Take care now. Alex Wilson there, Reform UK London Assembly member. After the break, we've been talking a lot about Davos. We saw President Trump arriving by helicopter in the snow, very thick snow there. The great and the good there. It's full of world leaders, full of global tycoons. And as I said yesterday, drum roll, even David Beckham. Not sure what he was doing there. Do you remember a few years ago that oath the then Prince Andrew went? I mean, they're not all high flyers, shall we say that. But yeah, what is it all about? And why did its boss, its long-term boss, Klaus Schwab, who founded the World Economic Forum in 1971, why won't he be there this year? I'll tell you why. Because he suddenly retired this year amid charges of financial corruption. We'll talk about that next. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Donald Trump, Emmanuel Macron wearing sunglasses, Nigel Farage, a host of world leaders, global tycoons, and drumroll David Beckham descend on the alpine Swiss resort of Davos for the annual World Economic Forum gathering. So my question is, what exactly is this annual gathering of the great and the good all about? Why? This is interesting. Why did its mastermind since founding the WEF in 1971, Klaus Schwab, suddenly have to step down this year? He suddenly swiftly retired after a whistleblower accused him of financial and ethical misconduct, misuse of funds and manipulating reports. Marking its own homework, the WEF later cleared Schwab of wrongdoing, but serious questions remain. Also, I want to ask, he never usually misses up on a chance of a spot of foreign travel, does he? Why isn't Keir Starmer there? I mean, he goes to everything else. Can't wait to go to Brazil for the useless COP30 or whatever they call it, that climate change crap. He'll go anywhere at the drop of a hat. Give him an aeroplane, he climbs on it and says, where are we going? But anyway, he hasn't turned up in Switzerland. I wonder why that is. But what is the World Economic Forum and what is this Davos gathering all about? Let's talk to the president of the Global Situation Room, who was a guest on this show not so long ago, Brett Bruin. Welcome, Brett.
Good to be with you.
Okay, well, there you go. What is the World Economic Forum?
Well, it's, I remember working in Liberia, and there was the news in Liberian English, and they described at one point the anniversary of the United Nations as the big men getting together at the big house. So that's roughly the World Economic Forum. It's a lot of powerful people who get together from government, from business, and talk about the year ahead, whether it's on economic issues, political and security issues. Clearly, this year was bigger than most because you had, for the first time since the early 1990s, a U.S. president in attendance in person, and it couldn't have come at a more challenging time in the transatlantic relationship.
Yeah, indeed. And why Davos? Why? I mean, is that where the World Economic Forum is actually based, or do they just rent the building once a year for this annual conference?
It is based there. And look, as you mentioned, the founder, sought out an exclusive place, which makes it harder for others to get there. I was up there earlier in the week. It's a trek from Zurich, few hours, few train changes to get up there, and then it's really expensive just to find a Airbnb or even a hotel to stay in. And by design, they want to be able to have a gathering of leaders who can roam the promenade, who can chat amongst themselves. And so, you found over the years that it has waxed and waned, but certainly this year there was a lot of buzz when I was up there, and a lot of folks circulating around, not just on the political stuff, but I think there's a lot of business done as well.
I'm sure that's true, but a lot of people think that kind of the WEF and Davos is sort of globalism central. Klaus Schwab, the now former chief of the World Economic Forum, was a great proponent of what he called the fourth industrial revolution. It is accused, the WEF is accused of sort of seeking through its various important members and representatives of governing the world in a global way and superseding democracy in nation democracy. What do you think about those accusations? I mean, our audience are obsessed with the WEF. They think it's sort of a conference where sinister men in darkened rooms make decisions that we know nothing about.
Well, look, I'm going to push back a little bit on...
By all means do. I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, I mean, this notion of being anti-globalist, I have a hard time, maybe it's because I'm a recovering diplomat, coming to terms with. Because we actually do, whether it's on, health, whether it's on the economy, whether it's on security, we do need to get multiple nations together and to communicate, even coordinate on some of this stuff, because it gets more dangerous, it gets more expensive, it gets less healthy if we're all sort of living in our own kingdoms and not connected in terms of how we're trying to solve these bigger problems. So look, I understand the criticisms of here are elites and they're getting together and they're sort of chatting amongst themselves, devising solutions. But, I think in a variety of different fora, you're going to need to have both government leaders, but, in a lot of ways, and, I teach a class at Georgetown University on crisis communications, and the point that I make around the regularity of risk today is actually anyone with a cell phone has more power than at any point ever in history. And so while, yes, this notion of a bunch of elites getting together and they decide the course of events, actually, someone who's posting something on social media, a video, a commentary, is shaping events in ways that, we could have only dreamed of a few years ago.
And how does the WEF, the World Economic Forum, how does it make its money?
Well, look, you get a lot of these companies, organizations that they have houses around Davos, and they are able to host their own discussions, and they get quite a lot from the private sector, and so it is one of many global gatherings, both those that are reserved for government types, but this one is more of a mix of government business. They do make an effort also to bring in people from smaller organizations, emerging leaders, including from developing countries. By no means is it a perfect gathering, but I do think, especially, we face just in the last few days notions of colonizing other countries. It's important for us to get together more as a world, whether it's up in the Swiss Alps or, down at the pub, and let's get together and have a chat about how we move forward together.
And what about Klaus Schwab? He's the German who founded the WEF back in 1971, long-term boss of the whole kit and caboodle. He this year, sort of shockingly, some said, suddenly sort of stepped down and retired amid accusations. A whistleblower accused him of financial and ethical misconduct, misuse of funds, and manipulating reports. So, he's been around running this organization since 1971, so he wasn't exactly a young man. So he retired, but people say he was forced to retire because of these accusations. Now, to be fair, some might say marking its own homework, the WEF later cleared Mr. Schwab of any wrongdoing. Serious questions remain, however. What's that all about? What do you make of that? What did you make of that?
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with his particular case, but look, you certainly have a number of cases, not just at the World Economic Forum, a lot of organizations where folks who have just been there a long time acquired a good deal of power and perhaps use it in some ways that are not ethical or are not even lawful. So it's important, I think, with any of these organizations, and I've been involved with a number of them, that you have that turnover at the top, that there is fresh leadership, that nobody's getting too comfortable in that position.
Well, you've got to say, though, Brett, Mr. Schwab had got very comfortable since 1971.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, we've got heads of different sporting bodies who equally have spent, a lot of time, and we could go on about FIFA and some of the challenges as a football fan that those bodies have had. Look, I think it's really important that there is transparency in these organizations. There's accountability as well. If there are accusations that they don't, get sorted out through backroom conversations, but there should be, if we want to have confidence if this is going to be an influential gathering, then it has to hold itself to a higher standard.
So essentially what this is all about, it's kind of a global networking hub, where the great and the good descend once a year to get together to discuss international affairs, to discuss business, to discuss commercial affairs, presumably for to everyone's benefit. That's basically it.
Yeah, I think that's the ambition. You're going to have various variations of it, but ultimately, you want some of those who run corporations, make decisions about investments, those who run countries, those who run other organizations, and when I was walking around the last couple of days, I mean, you have events on global health, you have events on, tech challenges and how do we integrate AI and how do you reintegrate humanity into AI. So, I mean, these are the kinds of things, if you're sitting at the top of a large organization, that you want to have good solutions to, and that's why you're getting all these folks together.
And you said earlier, just let's close on a shallow note, you said it's very expensive. Hotels are very expensive. So how much would an average hotel room cost?
They can cost thousands of pounds, so it's not cheap, and obviously a lot of these folks have the means to go up there. I think, it is an interesting question of, okay, well, how do you ensure that there are folks that don't have those means who are also able to participate in those kind of conferences?
Yeah, so a good way of keeping the riffraff out is to say charge 30 euros for a beer, that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, look, in general, Switzerland is expensive.
Yeah,
so.
it is, yeah. But Davos, the price of a beer there, the price of a hotel room at Davos is deliberately astronomical.
Yeah, I'll give you an example, like even taking the Uber from the station over to the Airbnb is probably like 50, 60 pounds, if I'm doing my math right, so.
Yeah, God, yeah. Well, it's way out of my price range, I'll tell you. Brett, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. That's Brett Bruin, president of the Global Situation Room. All about Davos. What do you make of Davos? Do you think it's a sinister place where deals are done above and beyond democracy? That's what its critics say. A lot of people think it is the epicenter of sinister globalism. I suspect it's a lot more innocent than that, but what do I know? Let me know what you think. 03444991000. Before we get to the phones, going to take a few calls in just a second. Time now to find out how you could be in with the chance of winning a trip of a lifetime to San Francisco. Talk is giving away flights, a 3-night stay at a 4-star intercontinental hotel, and £2,500 spending money, plus tickets to the Super Bowl to top it all off. Listen to find out how you can enter.
For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Texts cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343-418-7260. Lines close 22nd January 2026, 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus, UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at TalkSport.com. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That's Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Seats. That's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beard, and I feel
Raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Go to the phones in just a second. I've got some good messages coming in. This is from Amanda in London. Hi, Kev. Listening to you talking about all the outrageous privileges we give to illegal immigrants, I'm losing the will to live. I dread to think. What the hell's that say? Okay, I'll just read out what it says on the message, shall I? Because I can't work out what that means. I dread to think Wope will sink. That can't be right, can it? Anyway, losing the will to live over what we give to migrants. Illegal migrants in this country, no right to be here, and to kick them out of the country, we give them thousands and thousands of pounds, pay for their flights. You know, just kick them out. Kick them out. Somebody here is saying, I think Denmark's being very stupid. It is not in a position to play brinkmanship with America. I'm not sure about that. I mean, the Kingdom of Denmark is the sovereign ruler of Greenland. They're not playing brinkmanship. They're just saying it's ours and you can't have it. I think it's Donald Trump who's playing brinkmanship. And it looks like he's bottling it a bit, to be honest with you. But as our guest from America said earlier, you can never really tell. This is Stuart. He says, just how fantastic is our true leader, President Donald J. Trump. And he told them all straight today and showed just what a bunch of spineless, woke, left-wing, unpatriotic creeps they all are. I love the guy, and thank God he is around today. Stuart saying that. I mean, I do too. I mean, he certainly adds to the gaiety of the world. You know, I mean, he's a journalist's dream. He's the greatest story we've ever seen. So people like me, I love him because he's such a great story. I also like a lot of his policies. I like his strength. And I like the fact that he sees the madness of wokery. He sees the insanity of our net zero derangement, our immigration policies. He calls them out. I love him for all of that. So I agree with Stuart. I don't think he's handled the Greenland thing very, very well. I think suddenly somebody said to him, hey, Donald, I don't think you better backtrack on all this. So he's not looking too great today, but he says they're going to get a brilliant deal. There's one more. This is Natasha. Natasha says, hi Kev, my husband was in the military and had a civil servant working for him. This individual was caught spying on women in the toilet where he had rigged up a video camera in the accommodation he rented out. He went to prison, but because it was just under a year, he got his job back and a bonus. What? I thought, oh, this is just going to be some sort of strange story about... Wow! So this guy... Well, you heard what that was. I mean, another example of madness. I like this. This is from Chris in Redditch. It's a very profound text that we should all take note of. So I don't know if you've got a notepad hand. You might want to write this down. We're talking about Darren Jones, the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, that guy with the glasses. This is what Chris says. Darren Jones, MP, looks like Where's Wally? We'll get some pictures up. We'll make that comparison. I checked it out. He does. Well, Darren Jones is a Wally, so Where's Wally is very appropriate. So let's go to the phone, shall we? Let's talk to John in Cornwall. Hello, John.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure. I
was following it this afternoon, and I phoned in with an issue, a point.
Yeah.
But obviously, the time went on and on. But I think Trump has bottled it. And the reason that he's bottled it is the reason I said this afternoon. If he had stormed into Greenland and taken Greenland, that would have justified China seizing Taiwan.
Yeah, that's not a bad point.
And also, I think he's realised he's got less than 3 years left.
Mm-hmm.
And he's under a lot of pressure from his own people to wind his neck in a bit, because, but I was quite surprised in actual fact that the European speakers were as aggressive as they were, and they're saying, no way, we're not doing it. And, they called his bluff.
Yeah, they did. I agree with you, John. I think that's exactly what happened. I think the president, Donald Trump, got a lot of time for him on a number of levels, as I was just explaining. But he is a tough guy. And like most tough guys, he appreciates toughness in others. I think he was a bit surprised by the level of opposition he received from Britain and all the European nations. No, mate, you cannot have Greenland. We are not going to roll over and let you do this. You can't buy it. You can't have it. That's non-negotiable, end of. I think in the face of that, he saw that his only option after that would be some kind of military invasion. That would look terrible. He can never do that. So I think you're right. He has buckled in the face of a rare kind of European toughness that he actually quite appreciates.
But it wasn't only the Europeans. The ones that surprised me most was Canada, his next door neighbour. Now, if your next door neighbour is calling you out, and then, as you said, quite rightly, Europe responded in a way that he didn't expect. And I think as well, probably somebody in his team said, look, Donald, if you do this and you seize Greenland, what are you going to say if China then seizes Taiwan, which they used to own? You can't complain.
Yeah, but John, I don't think it's that surprising that Mark Carney in Canada, opposed Donald Trump because they can't stand each other. Carney and Trump hate each other. Canada is not particularly well disposed to America at the moment because at one point, of course, Trump was saying we're going to take over Canada. So I don't think Carney's vocal opposition was that surprising. But yeah, what's happened is that I suspect that Trump never really thought he was going to invade. I suspect he probably realised he probably wouldn't be given Greenland, but because of the level of opposition he's encountered, you're right, he's buckled. So that's that. John, I've got to go. Great call. Thank you very much, John in Cornwall there. When we come back after the 9 o'clock news, we're going to talk about ITV, the TV channel. It's gone crazy. It's put a trigger warning on the jokes of the late, great comedian and TV host Bob Monkhouse. At the risk of offending you greatly, I'm going to read some of his jokes out and see what happens. And what do you think? That next. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Breaking news, those privileged old duffers in the House of Lords, illiberal bunch that they are, have voted to ban social media for under 16s in this country. So that proposal by Labour has been backed by the House of Lords, with peers voting 261 to 150. That's a majority of 111 in support of amending government legislation. So the Commons have yet to vote on it, but it looks as if we're heading towards a total ban on social media for the under 16s, which, as I say, is an illiberal disgrace. Also, don't forget, Kemi Badenoch is in favour of this. She kind of suggested, oh, let's ban the kids from social media because it's so evil. Yeah, look, you might think that kids should be banned from social media, but that's not a decision for the government. That should be a decision for their parents. The government is not our parents. It's not our mother government. This is nanny statism. This is illiberal. Kemi Badenoch ought to have a look at what conservatism is all about. It's about liberty. It's not about illiberty. And the Lords, you know, full of Labour and Lib Dems, unsurprisingly, they've gone down the illiberal route. And so we could be heading for that, a total ban on social media for the under 16s like they've already got in Australia, which is a total joke because, of course, every single enterprising 12-year-old, 13-year-old will get round the ban just like that. Just be older people who won't be able to get around it. It's a joke, but it shouldn't happen in my view. What do you think? 03444991000. The illiberal old duffers in the House of Lords have voted to ban social media, all social media, for all people under the age of 16, in other words, kids. What do you think? 03444991000. Going to be taking your calls in about 20 minutes or so for the rest of the show. So from about 25 past 9, 20 past 9, we'll go all the way to 10 o'clock talking to you, which is excellent. Also, I've got some more messages. We might have some WhatsApp voice notes as well. So much still to come at 10 o'clock. Petri Hoskin will, yes, she will. Yeah, Petri Hoskin will take over the helm of the Good Ship Talk. I get confused sometimes. It's Andre Walker and Ash Gould tomorrow, isn't it? Petri Hoskin tonight, 10 p.m. So stick around because we have a full and varied schedule still to come. Now, before we get to you, to your calls, let's talk about Bob Monkhouse. Older viewers and listeners will remember Bob, very talented, multivarious host of lots and lots of TV shows. Do you remember him? Golden Shot, he was the host of, wasn't he, for a long time. Anyway, Bob Monkhouse he was a great comedian, told great jokes. If you saw him, I saw him a couple of times, you know, after dinner shows. So if he was in adult company, his jokes were pretty damn near the knuckle. In fact, way beyond the knuckle. Hilarious, but not for child consumption, for adults only. But when he was on telly, you know, he's a professional. They were great jokes, pretty harmless. Anyway, in 1994, ITV used to do these big spectacular specials. They used to take a star and they used to call them An Audience With. So, you know, An Audience with Billy Connolly and An Audience with God knows who. Anyway, in 1994, they staged, with Bob Monkhouse, an audience with Bob Monkhouse. As a mark of his popularity, if you want to know how many people tuned into that, wait for it, 20 million people. 20 million viewers tuned in to watch an audience with Bob Monkhouse. So what they would do, he would be the star of the show and the audience would be full of celebrities laughing away at his jokes and his stories. They were quite good shows, actually, particularly if the star was funny like Bob Monkhouse. Anyway, you can still watch this on ITVX. I recommend it, by the way. However, be careful, because ITV have put a trigger warning on Bob's jokes. Bob, by the way, died in 2010 in 2003 at the age of 75, sadly. And the trigger warning that ITV have put on his jokes in an audience with Bob Monkhouse says a warning over Bob Monkhouse's classic adult British humour, which they warn reflects the language and attitudes of its time. Oh yeah, all right then. Listen, let's talk to comedian Paul Cox. Hello, Paul.
Hey, Kevin, how you doing?
I'm all right. Now, you and I are going to risk causing profound offence to my...
Oh, I can't believe
to my audience.
I cannot believe there's anyone in your audience that's going to be offended.
Well, all right, I'm being ironic, but we're going to take a risk, though. You know. So,
let's hope so.
If any of you people out there are sensitive, here's my trigger warning. We're going to tell some jokes by Bob Monkhouse, and if you feel offended by that, I don't care. Right, here we go. That's my trigger warning. So, I mean, first of all, Paul, before we run through some of his jokes, your thoughts on this, because these jokes, they are not of their time, they're actually timeless, and they're not offensive, they're a bit cheeky, they're not offensive. Why do we have to have a trigger warning on Bob Monkhouse? As I say, I saw him a few times live. He's a nice bloke, old Bob. At a dinner party, after dinner speaker, he commanded enormous fees because he was the past master at it. He was the best I've ever seen. Hilarious and absolutely filthy at a dinner event in public. On television, consummate professional, never crossed the line. Everybody loved him. Good old Uncle Bob. And now he's got a trigger warning on him. How ridiculous is that?
Well, it is ridiculous, and we don't have to. The question was, why do we have to? We don't have to have trigger warnings. I actually looked into this the other day for my own purposes. Trigger warnings came around as a result of very serious things, actually. People who went to war and suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, or women that had been sexually assaulted, and there might be a scene in a movie or a documentary that might trigger that harrowing experience for them, and all that sort of stuff is okay. It makes sense, you know. Why not warn somebody? But when it's jokes by Bob Monkhouse, you might as well put trigger warnings on Peppa Pig, Kev, because it was so middle of the road, really. Very, very funny. He was an incredible jokesmith. If you don't remember Bob, or you weren't, familiar with Bob at the time, he was an incredible jokesmith. When he passed away at the age of 75 in 2003, he had volumes and volumes and volumes of books of jokes he'd written himself. In fact, just before he passed, they were stolen. They were returned, actually, after a much heartfelt plea from him.
He encyclopedically wrote down all his jokes, didn't he? Yeah.
So we absolutely don't need trigger warnings. I mean, ITV are
at all, if you ask me.
No, I don't think so. And by the way, if the things that we do need them for, like I mentioned before, in case anyone who wants to have the counter argument, that sort of stuff's going to be on late at night, after 10 o'clock, and, you take your own risk at that time of day, and you should be an adult and you should be able to deal with it. When it comes to, 8 o'clock in the evening and it's a repeat from 1994, which unbelievably is now 32 years ago. Yeah. 32 years ago.
I remember that show going out. Yeah. And I remember Bob as well. Listen, let's daringly show a clip from that very show, an audience with the late, great Bob Monkhouse back in 1994. Here we go.
They book the audience before they book the celebrity. They do everything backwards at LWT, or TWL as I like to call it, because they do everything the other way around here. They actually came up with the title, An Audience with Bob Monkhouse, and then they sat down and tried to figure out who to get for it. Very bewildering.
And we'll go through some of his jokes now. I'm not sure that these were all told in an audience with Bob Monkhouse. 20 million people watching, by the way. Look, some of these you might find sexist. They're old school wife and mother-in-law jokes, but in my view they're funny. This is the one I like. I'll probably get in trouble for it. Yeah, I got a horse for my wife. I thought it was a fair swap. He said, I've got some others, right. My mother tried to. I should actually. If you're of a sensitive disposition, some of these you may find offensive.
If you're a horse.
My mother tried to kill me when I was a baby. She denied it. She said she thought the plastic bag would keep me fresh. I like this one. My point, actually, Paul, these are all jokes. These are of their time. No, they're not. You could tell these jokes now. I'd like to die like my old dad, peacefully in his sleep, not screaming like his passengers.
That joke, by the way, is an incredible joke, timeless joke, attributed to lots of different people over different times. Bob Monkhouse wrote that joke. And look...
Not screaming like
it's so brilliant.
It's brilliant. It is, isn't it?
You call them a pullback and reveal, all of a sudden it becomes obvious, but it wasn't obvious until you reach that point. But look, all very funny. Look, the subject matter would change over time, but the structure of that joke is brilliant.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be offended by it. Who's offended by even the wife joke? We don't do them now. I mean, you said, and rightly so, that these jokes could be done now. And I run comedy clubs, and the audiences that attend my comedy clubs would all enjoy those jokes at some point or another. I have no doubt of that whatsoever. We probably wouldn't hear anything about wives or mother-in-laws anymore because...
Yeah, but why not? Why not?
Well, you might do, but there's been this drip feed, so people...
Yeah, you can't tell mother-in-law jokes about wives are sexist and all that.
It's not that it's not... Of course, but we are ist in another way, right? There's always an ist. It just so happens that we've decided that talking about your wife or your mother-in-law in that way is to be squeamish about it. And people aren't. They're just told that they should be, so that when they're in public, they behave as if they are to conform with the narrative view. It's like this kind of Fabian-esque, you know about the Fabians, the way that they just drip feed in things over years, and all of a sudden, before we know it, it's just accepted that you can't do these things.
Yeah, you see, this is the kind of joke. These are not offensive. These are clever jokes. When the inventor of the drawing board messed things up, what did he go back to? And
she's great.
I like this one as well. I can still enjoy sex at 74. I live at 75, so it's no distance. And of course, his most famous one that everybody remembers, I said it earlier in the show with Peter Cardwell. They all laughed when I said I was going to be a comedian. They're not laughing now. It's good stuff, isn't it? And you're right. He took it very seriously, and he meticulously wrote them all down. And the idea, this guy, he hosted The Golden Shot, Celebrity Squares, Family Fortunes, Wipeout, great TV presenter, marvellous stand-up comedian. And I just think it's kind of sad now that these po-faced woke idiots put a trigger warning. Be careful, you might find that, are these jokes of their time? My wife said, can my mother come down for the weekend? So I said, why? And she said, well, she's been up on the roof for 2 weeks already. I mean, is that sexist?
Probably, but who cares? I mean, this is the point about comedy, really. That some of those jokes, Bob or the teller of the joke is the butt of the joke themselves. You can get away with that anywhere at any time, because if you are the butt of the joke, that's fine. As soon as you start bringing in other characters and they've got what we now call protected characteristics in some way, it becomes an issue. But unfortunately, laughing is involuntary. So as you tell those jokes, there will be people listening to this that perhaps have moved on with their views and don't like the whole, mother-in-law, my wife's a fat woman type stuff.
Yeah.
But they are laughing anyway because the joke is written so well. The craft in there is amazing. There is no word that is unneeded.
Yeah, no, brilliant. They are brilliant jokes. We've got another one here. Oh, yeah, this is quite fun. You see, there's nothing offensive about this, by the way. My audience always leave the theatre happy. We give them their money back. And there was do you remember Jeremy Beadle?
Of course, yeah.
You know, what was his show? That thing about
Beadle's About. It was a
yeah,
prank
watch out,
show.
watch out, Beadle's About.
Yeah.
If you knew Jeremy Beadle, it was a very good name for that show. He wasn't perhaps the most popular man in showbiz. Wasn't he also in Game for a Laugh? Wasn't he? He was in that as well, wasn't he?
I mean, I never met him ever. But,
I did. He's not with us anymore. He was not a popular man, he was in the audience of an audience with Bob Monkhouse, and at a certain point in the show, all the celebrities got the opportunity to ask him questions, so they're firing questions at him. So Jeremy Beadle's question to Bob Monkhouse was, is there anyone here today, Bob, that you wish wasn't here? So Bob Monkhouse went, well, Jeremy, by a curious coincidence, and so on and so forth. But I just think it's sort of sad. I don't think that most of these jokes are not of their time. I think they're timeless. I mean, if we can't tell jokes about wives and mother-in-laws, what's the world come to? But these jokes mostly aren't about wives and mother-in-laws.
No, they're not.
It's sad, isn't it? That
it is also, who's it for? Really, who's it for? I've never met anyone who's offended particularly by that sort of joking. Not really. People aren't offended by it. It might not be to their taste, and they might find it unfunny as a result. But the fact that nobody can then turn around and say, I don't believe anyway, well, you can't watch it because I don't like it. Because that's the underlying element. The undermining element of this is that it's people telling people A, what they should be offended by, and B, what they should find funny. And that's not how it works.
Yeah,
it's all involuntary.
Right.
It's all involuntary.
Yeah, I mean, one man's hilarious joke is another man's tremendously offensive
And
joke.
I guess if you were ITV, you could argue, well, that's why we put the trigger warning on, because we're allowing people to watch it, but we don't want them to be offended. But really, it's ITVX. It's only old people like me and you, Kevin, that are watching it anyway. Yeah. No one else is watching it, and we're not
old people. You speak for yourself. I'm only 27. I've had a hard life, though, you know. But seriously, it's absolute nonsense that we have to put trigger warnings on this. My producer Dean was telling me earlier that because he's a saddo who sits around watching UK Gold and things like that, and he was watching endless reruns of Only Fools and Horses, which now have copious trigger warnings all over them. Be careful, you may find the show offensive. It is of its time. And do you know what I don't like about it? You know what I don't like about that form of wokery? It's this sort of supposition that we now are the most marvellous generation who ever lived. We're better than those Neanderthals in the past. You know, and that's not really true, is it?
No, demonstrably untrue by the fact that people keep going back and watching Only Fools and Horses, which I'm a huge favourite. I mean, Dean, I know Dean. He's a younger man than I am.
Not that much, I wouldn't say.
Well, he's a better looking man than I am, Kevin. I'll give him that.
I'll go with that. Yeah. Although with you two, comparing you for looks, that's a bit like saying which disease would you prefer to die from, you know.
This programme should come with a trigger warning now. No, this is unfair.
You're right about that.
But it's demonstrably untrue. People keep going back and watching these programmes. That's why Dean does. It's all available. Everything's available to us, and we can choose to watch what's on now. But no one wants to watch sanitised comedy.
No, exactly right. And by the way, on this offence score, I think we might have mentioned this the other day, but Ricky Gervais, who's no stranger to the odd risky joke himself, makes this brilliant point. I think it's one of the best points I've ever heard. Just because you're offended, it doesn't mean you're right.
Absolutely.
And that sort of sums it all up, really. It is this is what this is all about. This is the veneration of the offended, the deification of those who are offended. And we need to tell them, put up, shut up, no trigger warnings. If you're offended, hey, get used to it, learn to live with it. You know what I mean?
Well, exactly. I mean, this is a tumultuous world right now, Kevin. You and I get to talk about politics as well as comedy. And the idea that a whole bunch of people that are offended by Bob Monkhouse could defend these aisles does worry me somewhat. It worries me not because they can't, it's because we might be asked to, because we wouldn't be so offended by the idea. And I don't want to go to war, my knees playing up and everything. I don't want any of that. But look, we just don't need it. Let adults be adults. I was tuning in before I was on air and you were talking about the nanny state.
Yeah.
And this is more nanny state.
Yeah, it is. That's exactly what it is. It's nannyism within the nanny state. Shall I? Let's. Ricky Gervais. I saw him the other day. He was asked, "What's your favourite joke of all time?" He said, "Oh yeah, I know what it is. I'll tell it. Why does Noddy wear a pointed hat with a bell on the top?"
I don't know.
Because he's and I'm not going to finish that joke.
Do you know what? I thought you were going to.
You can fill in the words yourself. He's a weirdo, old Noddy, I'll tell you that. Really good to talk to you, Paul. Enjoyed you coming on the show for the last week. You are now officially a regular, so you better do something about that if I were you. Good to talk to you, though, mate. Thank you very much. That's comedian Paul Cox on the comedy of Bob Monkhouse. If you got a moment, why don't you give me a call? What do you think about this? You know, those jokes I read out, you might find some of them offensive, you might find them of their time, but we're grown-ups, do we need you might find this offensive? Why do we need trigger warnings? They're putting trigger warnings on Shakespeare, they're putting trigger warnings on Jane Austen. I heard a brilliant one the other day, a trigger warning on Frankenstein, not because Frankenstein is a scary monster that you might find terrifying. This is what the trigger warning was. Warning, Frankenstein contains scenes of servitude. So Frankenstein, you're warned about Frankenstein because it contains scenes of servitude. Like so many areas of wokery, trigger warnings are insane and they're getting madder by the day. Your thoughts, 0344 499 1000. Your calls and your messages and your WhatsApp voice notes when we come back. Stay where you are.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That's Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCown.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Seats, that's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beard, and I feel
Raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Lots of calls. Georgina from London is waiting. We'll definitely put her on tonight. Look forward to that. Let's go first to Andy from Liverpool. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Kevin. You okay?
I'm good, thanks, mate. What would you like to say?
Just basically all this rubbish which is going on with the government, with obviously the immigrants.
That's a long list.
Well, I know, but it's ridiculous. The way I look at it is this.
Yeah.
You've got a nightclub.
Yeah.
Now, you've got people queuing up in the cold to come and pay to come into the nightclub.
Into the nightclub, yeah.
Then you've got people coming in through the back way, breaking in through the back door.
Into the country, you mean? Or...
Exactly. Well, the analogy, yeah. But the people who are breaking into the back door of the nightclub
are
getting VIP tables and getting everything given to them. Yet the people who are queuing up outside, paying to come in, waiting in the cold, waiting in the queue, doing everything right, they are getting left by
they get a worse deal. That's a good analogy. You know what's crazy about this? You're talking about people paid to go to a nightclub. You know, this story we did earlier. You know, these are people who are here illegally, unlawfully. They've got no right to be here, and to get them back to their own country, we're giving them 3,000 quid. You know, we're giving them accommodation when they get back there. We're helping them find a job. We're helping them set up businesses. It's crazy. And worse than that, Andy, prisoners, foreigners who break our laws so badly they go to jail, to get them out of the country when they finish their sentences, we give them 1,500 quid while they're still behind bars. Why don't we just kick them out?
We should kick them out. At the end of the day, you know yourself, with the laws of today, if somebody breaks into your property, you can throw them out the way they've entered. Yeah? That's the law.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I mean, we're telling people who've broken our laws, who are here unlawfully, oh, would you please mind going back to your own country and in order to help persuade you, here's loads of money.
It's ridiculous. What you were talking about the other day about, obviously, when they're going to the new thing about this £100,000 a bed in the deportation centres is madness.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day,
it was worse than that, mate. It was £435,000 per bed. We've spent how many? £70 million renovating this place called Campsfield in Oxfordshire for 160 beds. Which works out as £435,000 per bed, and basically no one's in there. In December there were 9 people in there, and now they think there might be 50. So we've paid out this fortune, 70 million quid, and there's no one in there.
But it's, honestly, Kevin, it's absolutely madness what's going on with the government. Not just the government, but with everyone, with the police and everything else. The police are backing all the minorities and everything else. All this rubbish is going on. At the end of the day, we're British. If people want to come into the country and, you know, basically contribute to...
If they want to contribute, and integrate, they're very welcome. Okay, you know, I'm not against the multicultural society. I like the idea, but the multicultural society we seem to have created is a complete disaster. You know, where people don't integrate, where people are getting into the country, you know, in their thousands illegally, and then just being paid for by us. I mean, it's deranged. It's deranged.
Kevin, one thing I don't know whether you've looked up on is what happens is, you can look at this is actually true. People who are breaking into the country, what they're doing, they're going out and getting any girl pregnant. Yeah. Once you get her pregnant and she's got a baby,
that's one
it's
technique.
harder to get them out of the country.
Yeah, that's one technique. I've heard of that before, but there are lots of other techniques they use. But basically, most of them, once they get here, they're pretty much home and dry. That's the system, and it is absolutely nuts, bonkers. Andy, great call. Thanks for ringing. Andy in Liverpool there. Let's go to break. More calls, more messages when we come back.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, the Bob Monkhouse Award for Great Comedy goes to Bill, who has sent us in a message. So I was talking about, with Paul Cox just now, about my producer, Dean Spencer, who's easily entertained. He has been watching Only Fools and Horses on UK Gold and was complaining that it now carries trigger warnings, you know, as if it's somehow offensive. Bill's texted in to say, Only Fools and Horses should have trigger warnings. He's in every episode. If those of you who don't know about Only Fools and Horses, surely you all do, but Trigger was one of the main characters. Well done, Bill. Very, very good. Bob Monkhouse would be proud of you. Should we play a WhatsApp voice note? This is Jerry on military bonuses.
Hi Kev, I am absolutely apoplectic hearing that about the Ministry of Defence and issuing out bonuses. What the hell is that all about? Your old dad was correct. You get a good pension, you get a good salary, you get job security, but you don't get bonuses. Bonuses are for companies that actually produce something, who produce profit, and that's why they're incentivised to go and work hard, produce a lot, and then they get bonuses. Those guys are generating no income. Those bonuses are coming from the pocket of us taxpayers. Absolute disgrace. I am absolutely, so angry about that.
Well, great message, Jerry. Exactly right. When did this start? I didn't know about this. I didn't know that civil servants get paid massive bonuses, £57 million worth at the MOD in the last year. Several senior civil service servants on salaries like £250,000 a year receive bonuses of more than £100,000 in 6 figures. When did this all start? That's our money. That's a disgrace. I don't think civil servants should get bonuses. On what basis? You get a bonus in the private sector because your company made big profits, you help them make profits, that's what happens. That's the private sector. On what basis would a civil servant get a bonus? What basis? You're not making profits, are you? Ridiculous. 03444991000. Yeah, great message from Jerry there. Let's go to Kevin in Basingstoke. Hi, Kev.
Hello, Kevin.
All right. What kind of woke point are you going to make, Kev?
Well, I'll be really quick. I'll run through a few things.
Oh, no, God, not a few things. How about one?
30 seconds.
Go on, then.
Isabelle Oakeshott was saying we should increase military spending. When Labour were in power, they increased...
Labour are in power?
No, when they were last in power, they increased it by 39 billion. The Conservatives only increased it by 14 billion. Civil servants, because of Brexit, we had to employ an extra 133,000 civil servants.
Yep.
And I think Nigel Farage is a hypocrite. Because of devolution, councils can postpone elections if they want to, because for a local election it costs between £80,000 and £120,000.
So
if they had one now, they would have to have another one in a year's time. And also, he breached the ministerial code of conduct 17 times. Because
they all do, Kev. Kev, they all do. They do it all the time, and then they go administrative error, and then they all move on. It's no big deal about that stuff. It's no big deal.
He said he couldn't use a computer.
Whatever. It doesn't really matter. I don't care about parliamentary procedure. It's nonsense. It's Westminster bubble claptrap. Don't care.
But then he's also got Zahawi. He had to pay £5 million because he made a mistake. I mean,
well, he didn't make a mistake. He didn't make a mistake. He dodged his taxes.
Yeah, I know he did. I just didn't want to say that.
Well, you can say it. I'll say that. I mean, I'm with you on that one. Do you think we need to spend more on our military?
Well, I think we do now. Okay. I mean, it looks... I mean, it doesn't...
I agree with you. I agree. Look at us agreeing. Seriously, I mean, what do you think about giving away the Chagos Islands?
Well, the thing is, I think the Chagos Island thing, I think Trump's only brought that up because he had to back down on
Yeah, but what do you think about us giving away the Chagos Islands to Mauritius?
Giving them away, wasn't there?
Well, we have actually. We have actually. We've given them to Mauritius, and we're going to have to pay 30 billion quid over the next 20 years or so to rent them back.
But hasn't this been going on for years? There's a lot of
in fairness, you're right. When he was Foreign Secretary, Tory Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly began these negotiations. God knows why. It doesn't make any sense to me.
But then we've got the islands for 100 years, haven't we?
Well, yeah. I mean, technically, but we owned them. We were the sovereign controllers. Why give them away? I don't get it. I don't understand.
I thought we had to.
No, you don't have to. Of course you don't have to.
I thought we lost a lot of legal cases.
No. There was international law dictates that we examine Chagos sovereignty. Mauritius doesn't have any sovereignty over the Chagos Islands, never has. It's all crazy, that one, Kevin, I'll tell you. Last question to you. Do you actually believe that Labour are offering councils the chance to cancel their local elections purely for bureaucratic reasons, purely for administrative reasons, purely because they're going to reorganise the boundaries? Do you believe that?
Yeah, but the thing is, if they're going
to... Do you believe that? Do you believe that? You don't, do you?
Well, it's not Labour, is it? It's the local council. I mean, they're not...
Well, Labour didn't have to invite the local councils.
But what difference does it
look,
make?
29 councils, 22 of the 29 councils have accepted the invitation to cancel their elections or postpone them. Guess what? They're all Labour councils. That's because they're going to get beaten. Basically, they're being offered the chance to stay in power or lose power. Guess what they're choosing? Kev, always good to talk to you. Always shocked that you still tune in. I'm glad you do, though. Thanks for a good call. Kevin in Basingstoke. Shall we talk to Mark in Woking? Yes, let's. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Kev. Good evening to you.
Good evening to you. What would you like to say, mate?
Yeah, hi, Kev. I just wanted to follow on from what other Kev just said, actually, about Chagos Islands, and I think it all ties into the whole China thing, like a lot of things at the moment.
Yeah.
So we got this super embassy being built. We got all of this net zero, money being spent, which is obviously being used to buy all of this Chinese equipment and solar panels and stuff that they're producing, stimulating their industry, etc. And Chagos Islands is exactly the same thing. I think Keir Starmer's been pressured through China, through the Chinese pipelines to hand it over because Mauritius is a close ally of China.
Yeah, very good point. Did you hear, by the way, Mark? I mean, this is how ridiculous this is. Keir Starmer insisting, no, we're not the poodle of Beijing. We're not being pushed around by China. As I think it was Pat McFadden said the other day, we have it was Dan Jarvis. He said we have... Labour cabinet member. He said we have a pragmatic and realistic relationship with China, and that's why we're allowing them to have this mega embassy. It turns out that over in Beijing, the Chinese have cut off the power and the water to the British embassy and told us that you're not getting your power or your water back unless you give us a mega embassy in London. So we go, all right. That's what's going on. We are kowtowing. I think that is a Chinese expression. We are kowtowing to China. It's quite obvious.
100%. I totally agree with that, Kev. And a few years ago, we had a choice in this country to maintain our special relationship with the United States. Our brothers there who came from England initially, and they created a constitution based on the Magna Carta. We could have maintained that relationship, but unfortunately, through the World Economic Forum, through Keir Starmer, through the Trilateral Commission, all of these, quangos and commissions that China's, basically wrapped their coils around us, and Starmer and probably Sunak and previous prime ministers as well have all chosen to go down the China route. So I think this embassy is just a further extension of that, showing how Europe and the UK is in effect selling out to China. And
bowing to threats by China. First of all, about the embassy in Beijing, which is relatively minor, but I think the threat would have been, you want to continue lucrative trade with China. You better let us have this mega embassy. You better let Mauritius have the Chagos and so on and so forth. The point about trade with China is, I'm not an expert on this sort of thing, but by common consent, our trade with China is only advantageous, or is far more advantageous to China than it is to us. But we seem to be terrified of our own shadow when it comes to Xi Jinping and Beijing. As Isabelle Oakeshott said to me this morning, these people, Starmer, Hermer, Jonathan Powell, all these people, every day in every way, they diminish the great nation of Britain. It's a sorry sight to see. They don't like this country, I don't think, and they're ruining it.
Absolutely. The blob have their ideology, and the ideology is China-centric, unfortunately. Yes. You know, we know that. But the point I was actually phoning into was basically about these unemployment figures you mentioned.
Yeah, aren't they shocking? 1.5 million more people over the past year have been added to the huge number of people who have been signed off work for life. The total number now in this country of people who receive full benefits and never will have to work for the rest of their days is now 4.9 million, and we've got over 8 million people on benefits altogether. 8.9 million people not working. That's disastrous, Mark, disastrous.
It is. I totally agree, and we have to accept that there are long economic cycles, debt cycles. You know, we have good times, we have bad times, and we're going into bad times. We've got inflation, unemployment going up, and there's a natural cycle to that. However, I think it's important that we recognise how the Conservatives, they want growth, they want productivity, they want people to save so we can then invest and create more, you know, growth in the future. But you have governments like the Starmer government, socialism, always needs to have weak people. It needs people to be dependent on the government. Because
yeah, they do. Yeah, they like that. They like. I was going to say we're a welfare state. No, we are now a welfare system with a country attached. It's getting ridiculous. And by the way, you know, okay, Kemi has kind of raised her game, but I'm not having any of that truck about the Tories. For 14 years, from Cameron onwards, they were more left-wing than Labour. They're a bunch of con-socialists. God knows where our future lies, probably with reform. Mark, really good to talk to you. Excellent call. Please call again. Mark in Woking now. Time now to find out how you could be in with a chance of winning a trip of a lifetime to San Francisco. Talk is giving away flights, a 3-night stay at a 4-star Intercontinental Hotel, and £2,500 spending money, plus tickets to the Super Bowl to top it all off. Listen to find out how you can enter.
For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Texts cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate, or call 0343-418-7260. Lines close 22nd January 2026, 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus, UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talksport.com. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCown.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Seats, and that's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beard, and I feel
Raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A few texts. Stuart says, I bet ITV, talking about the 20 million who tuned into an audience with Bob Monkhouse in 1994. He said, I bet ITV would be lucky to get 1 million these days, as most people with a brain do not watch ITV or the rotten BBC. Agreed. Heather says, I don't like trigger warnings. It spoils my enjoyment when I'm watching TV. I agree with that, Heather. And Paul says, we're talking about ridiculous trigger warnings. Repeat episodes of The Lone Ranger now come with the trigger warning. Warning! Scary man in mask. Unbelievable. Right, let's go back to the phones. It is time to talk to our favourite caller, Georgina in London. Hi, Georgina. Hey, by the way, I've got a bone to pick with you. We tried to call you back last night, and for the first time, you weren't there. Where were you?
Right, I was going for the phone, and I caught my little toe on the bedpost, and I'd broken my toe.
Oh, God. Sorry. I'm so sorry. How is it okay? Is it okay?
No, it's black and blue.
My God.
And the size of
so
the
it's our fault. It's our fault. You're running.
No, darling, it was my fault because I didn't have my slippers on, so I paid for my stupidity.
Well, I hope it's okay. And sorry about that. Right, let's talk about you. You want to talk about the local elections? What would you like to say?
Well, I'd like to say that, Keir Starmer and his motley crew have obviously been spending far too much time with the Chinese, as he now believes he can bring their communist ideologies to Britain by cancelling the elections in certain areas in May for the second time, Kevin. He needs, for once, in his sorry term as Prime Minister, to be a man and take this hit on the chin.
I agree. I totally agree with you. And also, just accept the thrills and spills of democracy. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Now,
exactly.
The government will, of course, stick to their line. We are not cancelling elections. We are not postponing elections. We are inviting councils, I think more than 63 of them or something like that, to make a decision on whether or not they want to postpone their elections, because we're going to change the boundaries, and that will only be in a little while. Therefore, if you had an election now, we'd have to have another one in a couple of months. Therefore, we would form zombie governments. As I say, if you believe that, I've got some swampland to sell you in Florida. But the critics of this, obviously, Reform are taking them to court. They're making a legal challenge. But suddenly, my old enemy, but now suddenly my hero, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, the very Labour Speaker of the House, Labour veteran, has declared in the last couple of days, I do not believe in cancelling elections. So critics are coming up from both sides of the fence, if you see what I mean. Good for Lindsay Hoyle. I think a lot of Labour people say, look, if we're going to get beaten, so be it. That's what happens in democracy. Cancelling them, as you say, it's sort of Soviet or Chinese, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I'd be highly surprised, Kevin, if any court in the land would agree with this ridiculous decision. And I'm 100% behind reform to fight it tooth and nail. I mean, Keir Starmer can't dictate when we are to have our democracy in this country, as democracy is our right, and everyone who is British and of an age in our country has that democratic right to vote. He needs to see just how much that both he and his socialist ideologies are despised here in the UK. And the only way that the population can get this message across to him is by having their democratic right to vote. If he gets away with this, Kevin, what would it be next? Would he want to postpone the general elections to steal another term in number 10? This is a slippery slope.
I agree. It's very shameless. I mean, I've been around more years than I'd like to admit. I've never seen this before. I've never seen a government, offering councils the chance to cancel their local elections. 63 councils. That as things stand, you never know. Reforms challenge in the courts might work, but if 63 councils decide to take that invitation up, I believe 29 councils are taking that up.
Labour.
I think it's 4 million people are going to be deprived of their vote.
That's ridiculous.
That is an incredible assault on democracy, in my view.
That's a worse than an assault. That's an annihilation of our democracy. And it's amazing, isn't it, that the areas that they want to take away the vote are areas that are held mostly by Labour. Yeah. So they know that they're going to lose. They know they're going to lose those areas. So rather than lose their pay packets and their little perks that they have by being councillors or MPs or whatever, they'd rather go the slippery, slimy way and do the underhand backdoor job, which is exactly what they're doing, Kevin. And honestly, I don't know how these people can hold their heads up, because to me, this is everything that the British shouldn't be.
Yeah, no, it's just, as I say, as far as I can work out, it's unprecedented. Critics, including me, believe this purely because Starmer knows they're going to get annihilated. It'll be a very bad look. It'll look like a report card on his premiership. It'll look like the verdict of the nation, a very poor verdict of the nation on his performance so far. And, frankly, he's not being a man. He's not, he can't face up to that. That's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous and slightly sinister, to be honest with you. But that's my view. That's your view. I've got to stress the government say it isn't for that reason. They say it's bureaucratic. Got to put their point over. But that court case, now that Reform have got the go-ahead to take Starmer and his cancellations into the courts, legal challenge has been allowed. That unfolds, Georgina, on February the 19th, and it will be very interesting to behold. Well, listen, Georgina, I'm really sorry about your toe. I hope it recovers faster, because it sounds like a minor. I did it myself the other day. Bloody hell, it hurts, doesn't it? Well, look, good luck with that, and keep on calling. We'll probably talk tomorrow night. Excellent to talk to you as always. Thanks, Georgina. Now, another top caller now, Herbie in Harrow. Hi, Herbie. What do you want to moan about this time?
Good evening, Kevin. Oh, don't start me. I wish Georgina the best of health and luck.
I will. How about that? I was chastising her. Where were you last night? It turns out she injured herself trying to get to the phone. Anyway, what would you like to say, mate? What would you like to say?
Look, Keir Starmer needs to be taken to court for breaking, I think, our security and the well-being of this country by selling off the Chagos Islands without really permission from the people, and to give away the money without permission from the people. It's not his money. He's just taking it as if it was his, and I'll collect in the money and I'll take it and spend it as I wish without your permission.
It's 30 billion quid. 30 billion quid over the years of our money, Herbie. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. But it's the security of the country. Why did he do it? Look, Kevin, this man is running loose to do what he likes, to give the Chinese an embassy right next door to a telephone exchange. I've actually worked in that telephone exchange, which was next door to the Royal Mint.
Oh yeah, I know where that is. Right by Tower of London. Yeah, where the embassy's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, what damage more can this man do, for Christ's sake?
Well, as I say, I think the Chinese embassy deal is a threat to national security, and quite clearly the Chagos Islands is not only a threat to our national security, it's a threat to Western security, it's a threat to American security. It's an extraordinary decision based on the fact that there has been an international legal ruling that we should give these islands to Mauritius.
Who from?
Well, exactly. What you can say to international rulings is stick it where the sun don't shine. We're not going to do it.
Exactly.
But of course, international law for Keir Starmer and his human rights obsessed cronies. That is like an order from God, an order from above, and they're going to, you know, they'll just cave in every time to matters of human rights and international law. You know, the average person on the streets, human rights law, international law, couldn't give a damn, doesn't affect us. To Keir Starmer and Richard Hermer, the Attorney General, they're everything. They're everything. They're so crucial.
They do affect us, Kevin.
Yeah, they do affect them. Well, their decisions, their weird decisions do. Listen, Herbie, always a pleasure to talk to you. Take care, mate. Thank you very much. Herbie in Harrow there. That brings this show pretty much to a conclusion. That's about it for tonight. You've been an amazing audience. I've been a mediocre presenter. It's been a good show, hasn't it? Lots to talk about.